Jasmine Crockett, just when you thought it was safe to go back into the Democratic Party, along comes Jasmine Crockett. Not that we thought that, but some people did. Jasmine Crockett's bid is the latest sign that Dems are facing a Tea Party style revolt by progressives. This is by Holly Otterbein, who apparently is a Mensa Society member. Voters are very, very angry. Liberal Senators Van Hollen and Murphy are in talk with anti-establishment Senate candidates. Now, as many people were very quick to point out, the assertion that Jasmine Crockett represents some kind of a revolt against the Democratic Party establishment is absolutely absurd. Here's Glenn Greenwald. LOL. So many media people assume black Dems, especially Dem women, are progressive. Jasmine Crockett is a militarist and corporatist. She supports war, Israel, Wall Street, the U.S. security state. That's true for much of the Congressional Black Caucus. Screeching about Trump doesn't put her on the left. It certainly does not. And here's Ryan Grimm telling an interesting story about how Crockett handled crypto donors when she was first running for Congress.
First race in 2020, I have an anecdote about that race in my book about the squad, in which she's confronted with the question of what to do about crypto, because these crypto guys are going around the country. They were going after anybody that they thought was going to regulate them, and they were supporting anybody they thought would be friendly. And multiple people on her campaign told me that she just said, look, what do I have to do? Just tell me. And they're like, well, if you sign this policy statement and post it on your website, they won't go after you, and they'll probably give you a lot of money. She's like, cool, do it. That same campaign, she also attacked her Democratic opponent for taking corporate PAC money, bragging that she had taken no corporate PAC money. Within months of that, she started taking corporate PAC money, and since then has taken hundreds of thousands of dollars of it. And of course, if you're going to capitulate on those issues, you're also going to cave on Israel. She went to visit Israel on a trip paid for by AIPAC. There she is, and has overwhelmingly just voted the party line when it comes to sending weapons to Israel. So when it comes to corporate power, crypto, Israel, she's a very standard Democrat. When it comes to style, not so much. So we'll see how that goes.
We will see. From our friend Professor Zenkis, Jasmine Crockett says, I'm done with politics as usual, yet our top donors include private health insurers, big hospital corporations, high-power law firms, investment corporations, and real estate. In fact, half her contributions last cycle, $1.7 million, came from big money donors and super PACs. Jasmine Crockett is politics as usual. Well, not according to her. Not according to her. She calls criticism of her pro-Israel stances intellectually lazy.
No, you've seen it on social media where people are saying that some of them aren't going to vote for you because of this pro-Israel stance. What do you have to say about that?
What I have to say is that people need to start to do their research and stop falling for the clickbait. Listen, if you loved me before, then what has changed? You can always look at my voting record and know what it is that I have and haven't voted for. But it's quite intellectually lazy if you just sit there and let somebody else tell you something and you don't go and get the full picture. You can always look at my FEC filings and find whatever information it is that you seek. So what I will tell you is that I'm not going to be distracted, because at the end of the day, I can tell you that Texans are concerned about the fact that we lead in uninsured in this country. I can tell you that Texans are concerned because right now jobs are few. I can tell you that Texans are concerned because they can't afford childcare. I can tell you that Texans are concerned because hospitals are about to close down. And if you have questions, then you should just go and look at my record. I have nothing to hide. I wouldn't be running for office if I had anything to hide. But what I'm not going to do is allow people to sit here and have me on the defensive about something that they don't even know what they're talking about, because it is very easy to look up who is endorsed by who and to figure that out. That is intellectually lazy for you not to just go and look who has been endorsed.
I know you're. Wow. Well, that took incredible chutzpah. Jasmine Crockett calls criticism of her pro-Israel stances intellectually lazy and asks for people to look at her voting record. Well, she has voted to cut UNRWA and to arm Israel, along with voting yes on the following pro-Israel House resolutions. And here's a list. So you just got to be really, really confident that the voters that you're after are actually intellectually lazy and are not going to go ahead and look any of this up or follow it up, that they're just going to see the soundbite and leave it at that. Taylor Lorenz here, she keeps telling people to look at her record when her record shows that she repeatedly votes to defend and fund Israel. Matt Stoller, I really dislike Crockett's propensity to engage in dishonesty and gaslighting when asked about her views. If you support Israel, own it. Plenty of Democrats do that. Don't lie about your record and insult people with questions. Yes, well, Crockett dropped a banger of an ad that should shut down all of these objections. Just an incredible articulation of her policy positions, her views on affordability, her views on healthcare. Just an amazing ad that should really shut down the critics.
She's definitely a low IQ person. Crockett. Oh, man. Oh, man. She's a very low IQ person.
Somebody said the other day she's one of the leaders of the party. I said, you got to be kidding.
Now they're going to rely on Crockett. Crockett's going to bring them back.
Wow. I mean, that just says it all right there, doesn't it? Yeah. I got chills. So here's Glenn. If someone were to ask me to show the emptiness, pointlessness, and vapidity of the Dem Party in one short video, I would show them this Crockett ad. I guess Glenn's not a believer. She says nothing, expresses no views, no policies, just a Trump-centric ad with poser resistance. Well, speaking of the vapidity of the Dem Party, Ed Krasenstein, Jasmine Crockett's launch ad is brilliant. Yeah, it's brilliant, I tells you. This guy's a Canadian lib, Jim Stewartson, anti-fascist Jim Stewartson. The absurdity of sadistic billionaires believing they are somehow intrinsically more intelligent than anyone else is expertly illustrated by this genius ad announcing Jasmine Crockett's Senate campaign. Now, one thing you can give to Jasmine Crockett is she is a uniter, because if there is one thing everyone agrees on, it's that this ad is really great, but for different reasons. Ayanna Presley, my sister in service. Jasmine is a relentless fighter and a brilliant legal mind. She is exactly the kind of authentic, bold, effective leader this moment demands, the people deserve, and the Senate needs. Let's go. Braden, your brilliant fighter turned off our comments. She did. She did indeed. And, you know, Jasmine Crockett is giving people so much material. She's making the Republicans funny again. Jasmine Crockett's first Senate campaign ad backfires big time.
This new one they have, their new star, Crockett. How about her?
But you have this woman, Crockett. She's a very low IQ person.
I watched her speak the other day. She's definitely a low IQ person. Crockett. Oh, man. Oh, man. She's a very low IQ person.
Yes. And she wasn't done. Jasmine Crockett is getting backlash from black Democrats after claiming we need illegals in the U.S. because we're done picking cotton.
Go around the country and educate people about what immigrants do for this country, or the fact that we are a country of immigrants.
Right.
The fact is, ain't none of y'all trying to go and farm right now. Okay, so I'm lying. Raise your hands. You're not. We done picking cotton. We are. You can't pay us enough to find a plantation.
Yeah, that's a way to capitalize on Latinos leaving the Republican Party, being
Oh,
like,
yeah.
hey, we love Latinos because we're not slaves anymore. So I guess
But
we'll let
you are.
them do the slave. Yeah, no.
You're the new slaves. And
Yeah.
hey, if you want to talk about the vapidity of identity politics on the whole, that clip really sums it up. The idea that there was this monoculture of white privilege versus a monoculture of united oppressed people who care for each other was always absolutely absurd. Of course, there are a lot of non-white people who are perfectly happy to exploit other people, who are only concerned about themselves not being on the losing end of that equation. That is not a white problem. It's a human problem. It's a problem of human nature, particularly under circumstances where you lack a sense of community cohesion and it's every person for themselves. They're much more inclined at that point to feel like they're not invested in their fellow person. So it's all about not being on the bottom at that point, right? Because you have no care for the person next to you. It's that kind of a society. Jamarius here. This is the problem with Democrats. They literally do not know how to make a positive case for immigration. Why is she even talking about anyone picking cotton? She's extremely ignorant for using this dehumanizing language. Yeah, no lies detected there. Zaid Jilani, created in a lab to lose Texas. Yep. And this is what a uniter she is. She's bringing together Zaid Jilani and Michael Knowles. They basically have the same take. If she didn't exist, Republicans would have to invent her. Yep. Susan Wild disqualifying. Sorry, I may be a Dem, but I do not endorse this. And here's one MAGA commentator talking about this.
Girl, just tell us you're racist against Latinos. Just say that. You don't even know anybody who picked cotton, A. Nobody's doing that. B, you just said that we need illegal immigrants so they can do what? Go pick cotton? So you're okay with it if they do it? Is this bitch so fucking for real right now? This ghetto motherfucker thinks that she's gonna fucking run shit. And you guys will let her in. Just like fucking Mandami. Y'all are really fucking cooked. I'm telling you, y'all are fucking cooked.
Okay, now recently, Milo Yiannopoulos contended that there were only like 2 straight men in the entire conservative movement. And indeed, the evidence for that seems to be building. Speaking of which, this might be a very strange week for Benny to be outing somebody else for having a completely fake and constructed public persona. But in a due dissidence first, we are unironically using Benny Johnson's reporting as a source. Now, of course, I checked on it to make sure that it was accurate. It is indeed accurate. So here is Benny Johnson outing and dragging Jasmine Crockett out of the closet of her from the streets persona to reveal that she actually went to the most exclusive and expensive high school in her native state.
I don't know what you're talking about. I always thought
this is where Jasmine says she's from, but
shooter.
This is where Jasmine's really from. Welcome to St. Louis, Missouri, Jasmine Crockett's hometown. But let me show you where Jasmine Crockett's really from.
Welcome to St. Louis, specifically the Republican suburbs of St. Louis, with the mansions covered by private schools. This is where Jasmine Crockett was raised. We're talking quiet suburbs, manicured lawns, college brochures in the mailbox, and neighbors who wave when they mow the lawn.
This is where Jasmine Crockett went to school. It's called the Mary Institute and St. Louis Country Day School. It's one of the most prestigious institutions in the entire country, also one of the most expensive. Check this out. This isn't just a good school. This is the #1 school in the entire state of Missouri. It costs $35,000 per year to attend high school here. And the reason why is because the average test scores here guarantee your placement in an elite college institution. It's one of the best preparatory schools in the world. The average SAT score here is 1350, and the average ACT score here is 30. This is an elite institution.
Okay, there are videos of Jasmine Crockett before she constructed her political persona speaking. She does not speak that way. That is a complete put on. It's an act. That is not her actual dialect. That is not her actual accent. She is as fake as a guy presenting himself as a macho alligator Alcatraz kind of a straight guy who secretly hangs out with other men in a hotel room while his wife cries in the lobby. That is how fake Jasmine Crockett
whoever that
is.
may be,
whoever that may be. We're not naming anybody. Whoever that may be. Yeah, no, her entire political persona is a complete fiction. It's a lie. But here's the kicker. An AstroTurf recruitment process. National Republicans propped up Jasmine Crockett to push her into a Senate run. This is from Not Us, which is an outlet that does some very good investigative work. They've broken a lot of news this year. June News broke that Texas Democrats Colin Allred, James Tallarico, former Rep. Beto O'Rourke, and Representative Joaquin Castro met to discuss the 2026 election. Operatives at the NRSC, the National Republican Senate Committee, realized that Crockett, whose political stock had been rising, wasn't included in that meeting and also hadn't been included in any credible poll. So they decided to change that. Following NRSC's polls, other surveys began to include Crockett and showed similar results. She was surging in the primary. The NRSC then worked to amplify those polls and is taking credit for helping orchestrate the pile-on of these polling numbers to really drive that news cycle and that narrative that Jasmine Crockett was surging in Texas, the source said. Crockett herself even admitted she was encouraged to jump into the race by all the positive polling she was seeing ahead of her announcement. Quote, the more I saw the poll results, I couldn't ignore the trends that were clear, Crockett said during her announcement speech. Crockett did not return a request for comment. But the Republican efforts didn't stop there. In what the source dubbed an AstroTurf recruitment process, the NRSC had allies that were seeding these new polls pretty aggressively into progressive digital spaces. That's a quote. There were several recruitment phone calls and text messages that went out to Democrats and high propensity voters across the state that would urge voters to contact and advocate for Crockett to join the race, the source said. Quote, that was really a sustained effort that we orchestrated across the ecosystem for several months, the source said. Not only was it getting positive news coverage, but her office was directly having traffic driven to it in terms of phone calls urging her to run, unquote. Cornyn was trailing significantly in the polls to Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, and Representative Wesley Hunt was creeping up on him. Polls also showed Paxton faring worse against Allred and Tallarico, the Democrats who had announced they were running in the general election. Then this past week, Allred dropped out of the Senate race, opting instead to run for the House, and Crockett, whose brand of anti-Trump, anti-Republican virality has made her popular with the progressive base, announced she would run for Senate in Texas. You got to hand it to him. You got to hand it to him. Brilliant plan, because this is a great case of someone who has an advantage in a Democratic primary who's going to be a much worse candidate in a statewide race. So look at the polling. Jasmine Crockett, 51. James Tallarico, who polls much better against Cornyn, is at 43 because these Democrats haven't changed. They haven't changed. They see her on Chris Hayes talking about Trump. Oh, yeah, she's tough on Trump. Yeah, she's tough on Trump. And she's going to get killed, man. She's going to get murdered. And again, to be fair, it's generational. It's a generational divide. 18 to 34, Tallarico. 35 to 54, still Tallarico by a tighter margin. Once you get over 55, Crockett, 59 to 34. These are the people watching multiple sclerosis now. Crockett's on there all the time doing the Trump hate. And that's it. That's it. These people have not changed one bit. They're the same exact people who all Barack Obama had to do was the Monday Night Massacre. And all of a sudden, they're all in for Biden, who none of them really liked. All the polling showed they really didn't like him. They're good little boys and girls. They do what they're told. It all depends on who shows up at the primary, but that's classic Democratic Party. To them, they are not really normal people. They're not normal voters. And to them, Crockett, she says lots of mean stuff about Trump, and she really is very good at getting herself out there in the news cycle and being on the kinds of shows that elderly libs watch constantly, mostly multiple sclerosis now. And so that's it, man. She could definitely win that primary if young people don't show up. For the Republicans, yeah, man. I mean, well played. Well played. Fair play, man. They saw, hey, if we elevate her, forget about it. We got it.
Yeah, it's interesting because, Democrats have been talking for many, many years now about the dream of turning Texas blue. And, it's never come to fruition because it was always a very heavy lift.
Right.
This year, between the three factors that are really dragging Republicans down, which is that the economy has them 40 points underwater with independents, the Epstein stuff has the turnout with the base just really depressed in a major way. And this is perhaps the most significant factor in Texas, Latinos have now turned on them to the point where they're back voting for Democrats in Obama-like numbers, but, more than 2-1. In Virginia and New Jersey, they voted just about 70-30 for Democrats. And, of course, Texas is a disproportionately Latino state. So this is the one year where it's difficult but possible to actually turn Texas blue. Like given how unpopular the Republicans are, and given those three things, given that this is a specifically Latino heavy state, they can actually flip this if they do everything right. But Crockett makes it a much, much heavier lift. I'm not going to say it's impossible because, as we'll get to probably on Tuesday at this point, this healthcare shit is going to be so catastrophic that there's not going to be a safe Republican seat, I don't think, really anywhere. Unless you're up by like 20.
You may be right.
Unless you're up by like 20 or more, which the Republicans are not 20 or more in Texas. But you make yourself a pretty heavy underdog with Crockett. Whereas if you pick a candidate who's better suited to win a statewide race in a huge and diverse state like Texas, they would be in much, much better shape. I think Allred was probably the best general election candidate, and they got him out. I think Allred was probably a better general election candidate than Tallarico, even, just from like an electoral standpoint. I don't know what these people think about every issue. I'm not endorsing anybody, obviously, but I just think like from an electoral standpoint, he seemed to have the most solid numbers, and now he's out, and it's her versus Tallarico. Neither of them are great candidates. She's worse. She's worse. I'm not going to say it's impossible because the healthcare shit is going to be so devastating. I don't think anything's impossible. But in a year where they finally have a chance to do what they've said they could do for decades and haven't done it yet, they're really handicapping themselves in a big way by elevating Jasmine Crockett. There's no doubt about that.
Crockett is a great reminder of why you hate the Democrats. She is everything that is wrong with that party. Just absolutely empty, corrupt, hypocritical, duplicitous, fake, just horrible. Just the worst candidate you could possibly run in a state like Texas. That's why I say I got to give it to the Republicans for seeing that. And they had their back against the wall and said, hey, she's a moron. We could probably trick her into running for the Senate, and it worked.
Yep. A dirty trick, but a good one.
Please clap.